Okay, awesome. So shall we dive in?
Let's do that.
Okay, I'm super excited because I know we've sort of chatted about hello a little bit, but I'm really, really keen to find out more. And so, yeah, let's dive right in. So there is on the website an entire section dedicated to hello. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to dive in there, and I think at the end you sharing that you have a diagnostic, right, which will which people can take.
Yes.
That that helps. So that's I think we're whenever we're posting, we'll put that link in so that people can go through that
Yeah,
as well.
indeed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Right. So, is there anything you specifically want to tell us from the beginning?
Now I just want to start with a hello.
Hello.
That's the we are starting a new week. We are starting the day today, and we need to start with a hello. That is my main message, and I'll explain to you how.
Okay.
So hello. It's the first greeting in English. Of course, we have different words for the same thing in, of course, hola and bonjour and all other things in other languages. But every conversation in English, it usually, it in a polite way starts with a hello. Then it can lead to a conversation. Then it leads to a consultation. Then it leads to many things, connections. Everything starts with a hello.
Mm.
So, in the world of eclectic leadership, HELLO stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for Holistic, Ethnographic, Linguistic Landscape, Observation, Outcome, and Optimization. So, there are actually three O's in the end. So, it's a
It's
long
hello.
hello. So, it is indeed a very long hello. And this is, in the end of the day, it's an assessment, it's an observation, as the name says. And there are, of course, various nuts and bolts inside that. But yes, it is an example, one of the examples of how eclectic leadership is applied. So it's an example of applied eclectic leadership in an organizational setting. And it is a foundational exercise that an organization must do before initiating any other kinds of assessment, audit, consulting. So it's a very basic form of consulting that every organization should do with one condition. If your organization is using language in any shape or form, only then you have to use hello. If your organization does not use any language, then you don't need to say hello. So it's up to you to figure out, well, do we use any language in our organization on a day-to-day basis? Then we should say hello. So that's the introduction, and then of course I'll dive a bit deeper with you.
Okay, so I think if we can look at where it all started, if that's okay
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
So, what was the moment or the experience that made the language gap visible? Because you just said something very important. If you are a business and you use language now, are we talking communication? Are we talking just different languages like English, French, German? So yeah, what was that first experience or moment that the gap became visible?
So I'll go back in time, and in my corporate career, I used to lead a PMO, that's the project management office in a large gaming company. So that's where the route was formed, not only for Hello, but also generally eclectic leadership. But so there was an incident where um, there were five game studios across five different locations of the world in four continents. So we had project managers in five different game studios in Belgrade, Beijing, Manchester, San Francisco, London, different locations. And I inherited a group of fantastic project managers from these game studios. So while we started to work, we started to standardize our processes. The main question that I started asking after nearly 6, 7 months working with the different teams in these 5 locations: how red is your red? Or how amber is your amber? So, what happened was, in project management, we used to use dashboards to convey the status of various projects to our senior managers, and we use the traffic light signaling like red,
Yeah.
amber, and green.
Mm.
Now, different project managers were using different forms of that traffic signal light to convey the health of their projects. And then it dawned upon us, because of some confusion with some clients and some unnecessary escalations to the senior managers, that that issue was actually not an amber. You were already on fire. So how amber was your amber? And there was different interpretation of that.
Mm.
Similarly, in some cases when the threshold were very low or there was no transparent understanding of what exactly causes a project to go red, of course, you can assume that, oh, maybe if this happened, maybe if that happened, but maybes don't work. In project management, you have to be very specific because money, time, expectations are built on that. This was the main turning point, which when I realized that it's the same color, red, is the same color, green and amber, but the interpretation of these colors were different across our 5 studios, in spite of the fact that we are all of this same organization, we belong to the same sub team, we belong to the same profession. All of us are project managers, and we had been trained under the pretty much the same accreditations as well. In spite of so much similarities, so much uniformities in our training, in our company, in our culture, we were still translating or conveying something, a health of a project, with a same color but with different meanings. This was the turning point then when I realized that, well, actually, if this happens with a color which is well known across the world, what happens with words? What happens with sentences? What happens with, long things which
Mm.
takes time to interpret depending on your cultural context? That was the route which led to further thinking along the lines of hello and the role of languages before everything else.
Okay, so that does answer my next question, which was why hello, and obviously that's why, right?
Yeah.
Because it is the beginning and the start. And so, what do those 5 letters mean beyond the acronym? So, if you could just break them down for us.
Yeah. So, holistic ethnographic linguistic landscape. So, holistic, as a term says, it includes everything. That's just it means. So, in an organizational setting, we look at the use of language in all its 4 predominant forms, which are written, auditory, spoken, and uh, reading, whatever you are reading as a viewer or as a staff. It includes all forms of linguistic expressions, and what in whatever shape or form. So if it is in a meeting, you can be listening to a conversation as long as it's not confidential. You can be looking at any signage in a retail mall. You can be looking at any announcements which might be coming out in at an airport. You could be looking at instructions in a hospital, for example. So this just means holistic. Linguistic landscape means it works very well in a multilingual, multicultural setting. Predominantly, hospitals are a big one because the stakes are high or the highest in a hospital, especially in a multicultural, multilingual hospital, depending on the location demographics. You can think about airports. You can think about supermarkets, supermalls. For example, in London, you have your Westfield, your Harrods, Selfridges, John Lewis, big supermarkets, supermalls where you have a mix of multicultural, multilingual staff, tourists who are coming in. So then you can think about public transport, of course, airports, bus stops, railway station. Universities are a big one as well, where you have many, many students coming from different parts of the world with different linguistic and cultural background, and global corporations, where they have a multilingual staff as well. So this is what's meant by holistic linguistic landscape. and you look at all the expressions, all the artifacts of language, the use of language in that certain setting. So that's holistic linguistic landscape. Then comes the three elements, which are observation, outcome, and optimization. So this is, you can think of this as a roadmap. So what happens is, first one is observation. So you have different modes of observation. It could be literal observation. So you get yourself implanted into that organization's setting for a certain period of time to really observe language in action, and you take note. That can also include focus group discussions, semi-structured interviews, or one-on-one interviews, many forms of observation. So that's the ethnographic part here as well. Then comes, once the observation is done, we have the Council of Eclectic Leadership. We do the analysis of that. We share the outcome with the companies. We share the results, and depending on that, it's a joint collaboration that what needs to be optimized. So that kicks off subsequent um, assessments, and that could include your culture audit, employee experience audit, your DEI. So that's your diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. Many subsequent things can come on the back of the initial hello assessment that you will do.
Okay, so you've gone a bit further than just the acronyms. So I think let's just give it one more time. So holistic,
Holistic,
everything.
ethnographic.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
just give me
yeah,
back. Holistic is anything, any way we communicate, written, spoken.
yeah.
Okay. So that is how we communicate as a business and to clients, right?
Yeah,
So
yes, indeed.
it's the understanding across the whole holistic, and I know holistic is everything, but I
Yeah,
mean it's not just between ourselves, it's
no,
between us and the community, us and the public, etc.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Then ethnographic
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
give that back to me again.
So ethnographic is the observation, the knowing, the process of knowing what's going on.
Okay. Okay,
Mm.
and how would that play out for a team or for a group or for a department?
So that leads to the observation as well. So you can be given certain materials to go through, that how the company is communicating something to the staff. Or you can be joining a certain meeting, for example, to see what kind of words are being used in a multicultural setting. You can do that in a headquarter. You can do that in its branch somewhere in Africa or in India or in China to see what changes there.
So it could be a
That's the
playbook, right?
ethnograph.
Could be an
Yes.
organizational playbook. Okay.
Yes.
And then so linguistics.
Linguistics is the science of meaning making or languages.
Okay. And that's how we understand each other, ourselves, and
Exactly.
the difference between us.
Or we
And
don't
that,
understand each other. So that's why the
yeah,
breakdown happens.
right. And that could be because of culture, demographic,
Yes.
many different things.
Or simply your state of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. That's a good one. And
Yeah.
then landscape, that is
Yeah.
where we happen to be at the time, right?
Where we happen to be at the time. And landscape is, you are looking at things from a distance so that you can see the entire landscape. So you're not too close to it.
Ah, you're
So that,
stepping back.
yeah, you're stepping a few, you're away, and then you're able to see the entire landscape so that it's very clear that from end to end what's happening.
Okay. And then so observation is I think obvious, although not, because again it depends where you're coming from, right? How
Yes,
what you are
absolutely.
observing, the lens you're
Absolutely.
using. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then you say outcome and optimization, and those are quite obvious. So outcome is, well, what are we observing or what are we seeing? And then
Yes.
optimization is, well, how do we fix that, right?
Exactly. So the difference I would say is that, this is not exactly a compliance audit. So this is not like a sector specific audit, or it's not a financial assessment like you have to check, I do a financial audit of their organization. It is not that. It is not specializing on finance or compliance, like you need to get your ISO certificate renewed. It's an audit from an inspector coming in. It's not like that. It is a linguistic audit. So as long as you use languages, we have language specialists in our team who can take care of that side of the thing, that what kind of language is used, what does it mean, what is the impact, and what can be done about it.
I'm going to go a little off scripture because I think something is that okay?
Yes, of
Because
course. Yeah.
something you just spoke about, which is interesting, is I think a lot of companies don't attach a weight or the value of this thing you're talking about.
No.
I think it goes a little bit under the radar. And I'm reading something on the website here that said nobody owns the language gap, and that's why it's still there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I say one sentence is that we tend to take it fourth granted. So it's like first, second, third, fourth granted. We are not saying it's you
Yes.
take it for granted, you're taking it fourth granted, a bit of
Granted.
a
Yeah.
wordplay. What's happening is I argue that language is the fourth element that we tend to take for granted in our lives, in our organizations. What are the first three then? First three are eating, sleeping, and breathing. As simple as that. And you might be thinking, what do you mean? But we do breathe the moment we are born, then we start eating, then we of course sleep, and then we tend to take these three things so much for granted. Then we start doing yoga, then we start getting into a diet, then we start tracking our sleep patterns when we become adults to really, you know, get our life in order. Similarly, the fact that we start to speak from an early age, we start to learn languages, etc. We tend to think that we have mastered that language. Just being a native speaker of a certain language doesn't mean that you are a master of that language or you have communicated yourself 100% just by speaking louder in English in a foreign land, for example, that everybody will understand you. It doesn't work like that. That's why language is that fourth element after breathing, eating, and sleeping, which we tend to take for granted. And same thing happens, in an organizational setting. Just because you think that, right, we speak in English or in another language, English is the language of our business, international language. Everybody will simply understand what we mean, what because it's written. Here you go. I mean, you don't need to listen to me or my accent. It's black and white. There cannot be any ambiguity. Then what happens is there is ambiguity. And eventually, because of the confusion, miscommunications, etc., many other problems happen. So you're right that we have been completely taking this element for granted, thinking that, well, everybody speaks language. And we have then reduced the power of languages predominantly to things like, oh, communication skills. Oh, we need
Mm.
to improve on our negotiation skills or presentation skills, which I'm not saying are not true. They are definitely true as well, but that is not the only thing. And oh, the big one, cross-cultural training. Do you need to have cross-cultural training? Of course, if the need be, why not? It's always a good idea to. And language is, I think, that's one of the strongest lens to understand another culture. There is no doubt about it. But that is not the only main role of languages. So since we have taken it for granted, everything else that we are doing is a bit of a band-aiding on some issues where the core thing could have been addressed much better with something like hello.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I get it now. Okay, so now we're going to go to what is it? Because that was like sort of where it started, what it's about. So if you had to explain this to someone for the first time, and I know you've explained a lot already. So if you had to say to somebody, and I know you touched on it earlier, I'm going to come and we're going to do hello in your corporate company or in your company or with your team. What's how is this? How would you tackle this? What's the first thing you'd say to them?
Well, we can say that just the hello, it's the start, is the basic, the first assessment that you can do in your organization if you're using languages. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So it's an
Simple.
assessment, it's an audit, it's a consulting service. So if we have to really speak in the language of a corporate, this is what I would say. It's an assessment, audit, or a consulting. of how language is used in your organization and the impact of that on employee relations, gender relations, marketing, messaging,
Mm.
etc.
So I think you said something really important now where I think some people may not even know that it's a problem. So it's the
Yeah.
impact. And do you know some areas where it could be impacting? I mean, you mentioned in terms of we call it a robot, but it's a traffic light, right? So in
Yes.
South Africa
Yeah.
we say robot. Misinterpretation. Can you think of others? There could be bottlenecks. What are other sort of I wouldn't say problems or issues, but things down the line that could be
Yeah.
going wrong that could be fixed with hello.
Yes. You can think about a hospital setting, for example, they say in London or in the UK where we have the NHS, and they do actually a lot when it comes to having, say, interpreters ready or having things translated in various languages. So these are also good initiatives, but I'm not sure if that is enough or if they have done an intensive linguistic forensic assessment of how language is being used. So this is an example, for example, where you are, say, prescribing something to a patient and who speaks a different language. Then the severity of the symptom, the severity of any kind of disease, how these things are understood, even a question is understood, how these things are answered. This is a very high stake situation where you really need to understand the choice of your words and the impact of the words that you're using to a patient or to their families. Even if they speak the same language, imagine if everybody's speaking in English, but the choice of the word that a doctor uses has a direct mental emotional impact in a high stake situation of the patient. Now, are you going to police everybody's word? What exactly going to say? Are you going to be a linguistic police? Not necessarily. But having some guardrails are a must, isn't it?
Mm,
So that is
mm,
that is the thing that we can come up with. The outcome could be a linguistic policy that we do not use the terms X. For example, it could be in an NGO setting where you will not never use the term global south.
yes.
So as a
So it's about
policy,
assumptions, right?
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Or we do not use the word third world. So, as an organization, we do not want to use the word third world in our written, spoken, any kind of communication on
Mm,
our website. For example, if you ask ourselves, we took some time to not use three words from the home page, at least the landing page of Eclectic Leadership's website, just on the landing page. What are those three words? Um, Unlock potential, transformation, and the
mm,
big one, leadership development together. So you're like, what? Indeed. So these are the three words which we think people understand it, but they have become so much cliched that it's very difficult to differentiate yourself. So on the homepage of Eclectic Leadership, we have consciously not used these terms: unlock potential, transformation, leadership development. So this is the kind of application that, why
mm,
did we choose to say a few words publicly? We have decided not to. It is not random. It is part of the design that we applied
mm.
hello on ourselves as well.
So what when I hear that, you know what I hear, because we all prompt our AI, right? About
Yes,
what to
indeed.
say about us and what not to say about us and what words to use and what words not to use. And so
Yes,
isn't hello a little bit like a prompt, right?
it
For a
is. You're
corporate.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. And these days with AI, I mean, this is one thing I'm sure you might bring up as well at some point today. We are speaking with a machine. We are
Mm,
speaking with large language models that we are being told to, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you ask a very generic question to an AI tool, you will get a generic response which looks like everybody else's. So we are being told to even think about prompt engineering, context engineering, etc., etc., etc. Really trying to understand even how to speak with a machine. But at the same time, Do you remember, have you read those researchers where they were trying to do some research on the fact that do you need to be even polite to ChatGPT or Claude or not? Should you say thank you or please or not?
Oh
And
yeah.
it turns out that, well, you're just burning your tokens. Every conversation you're consuming your tokens. Why bother? It doesn't mind anything. It's an AI. But the fact that we are humans, we think, oh, we should actually say thank you to Claude because Claude did something for us. But it turns out there is no need. So if we stop saying thank you to Claude, and it gets into a habit, does it translate to my interaction with other humans as well? That I
Mm.
also don't say thanks to anybody. So what is it? All of these interactions, fundamentally, what's happening is you are seeing the impact of using a certain way of language to even a machine, or not using a certain way of language to a machine, and its potential impact of your interaction with other human beings. So you see how fundamental hello becomes.
Yes. And you speak of hospitals and um,
Airports,
yeah, but what about
supermarkets.
education? I think there's a few, right? Maybe
Yes,
you could just mention them. Mm.
so you have hospitals, then you have the public transport or locations such as airports, railway stations, bus stops, where there are lots of announcements going around, lots of signages, and people in transit, and people from different linguistic background with different motives. After hospitals, so you have these public transport locations, then you have got supermalls, supermarkets in large cities, or a certain location where there's a lot of multicultural customers and staff. Then you have, after supermarket, universities, big universities where there's a lot of footprint from international students. And then finally, you have the global companies with a global footprint of multicultural, multilingual workforce spread all around the world. So these are the primary five locations I would say that where
Mm.
it's applicable.
And these are the locations that could be taking the generalization of English or a certain understanding for granted, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
Yes. And as I
Okay.
said, it works very well where English is the dominant language, but there are plenty of other languages in action. However, it can also apply in a monolingual setting as well. So what I was
Okay.
telling you before I lost that one was we are only looking at, say, imagine yourself standing on the deck of our leadership. Imagine we are on a ship and we're looking at a very foamy ocean, foamy waters. We could only see the foam on the waves, and these foams have been labeled as, oh, cross-cultural training. That is communication, that is multilingualism, which is all true because they're also part of the water. I'm not saying they're anything remote from the water itself. But do you realize how deep that ocean is? That is
Mm.
linguistics. And we can only see what is visible to us from the deck. But we need to take a deeper dive to really understand the power of languages because everything else emanates from that. Everything. Because the way I communicate something to my staff, it could be a good news, it could be a bad news, it could be a change news, verbally or in written, that triggers your emotions, either as an individual or in a group setting as well. That alters the power status between us, among us, in a group, in a community, everything. Words create worlds. So the words that are coming out from a manager, from a leader, from an evangelist of some sort, that alters somebody's reality immediately. So this is why we simply cannot take it for granted. The power of languages is more than simple presentation, communication, cross-cultural. They're just foamy waters you can see, but we need to take a deeper dive.
Okay. And we've discussed why, because so many things could go wrong, misunderstandings, and things that you didn't even see, right? Things
Yeah.
projects going over time, and all of those things could have been mitigated if you just understood. certain things better. Now, you've actually answered my next question, which of the six sectors feels most alive right now? And I can see it's linguistics because
Yeah.
yeah, that is the one. But if you had to pick a second one,
When you say after linguistics,
yeah. So of those six parts of hello,
yeah,
although the O is an O,
yeah.
which is the next one that you think is really part of industry's problem right now?
I think in the last one, it's the optimization itself. The fact that are we optimizing the right thing? So this whole, usual confusion between efficiency and effectiveness. The choice of our language, even that reaches items like your copywriting, what should go on your website or your marketing or your messaging, for example, advertising, customer communication. When it comes to optimizing it, again, we are doing our bits and there are specialist teams doing all of that. So once we really understand the power of languages, then we really need to understand, okay, after the observation, the outcome, what needs to be optimized. That is where the rubber hits the road. That okay, now with our clients, what do we need to optimize? To what extent and why? So justifying all of that from a cultural perspective, a linguistic perspective, political, psychological perspective. That is the challenging bit because it's so challenging. We have our council of eclectic leadership, which, funnily enough, do not comprise of linguists only. So this is where again the council of eclectic leadership comes into play. That we are not like a translation localization company who just wants to translate all of your website in 100 different languages. We have this group of linguists, psychologists, uh, trainers, teachers who really look at the optimization of the use of your language. How? Then you go back to the first word, holistically. So again, it's all part of the design that since we have an eclectic team, they are able to holistically optimize the use of your language for the maximum impact that your company or your organization can get.
Fantastic. You've gone a bit further, but you said
Mm.
I'm putting three things together. My next question is, so when a client says yes, what do they receive and in what form? Now, you
Yeah,
said something really interesting. You said where the rubber hits the road. So
yeah,
is that a universal? But I understand what that means, and I'm sure a
yeah,
lot of people understand what that means. But that brings me back to something where you said there's the three words we said we're not going to put in. And I remember leadership development. I know because that's one I dislike a
yeah.
lot as well. Transformation, and the first one was
Unlock potential.
unlocked potential. Now, if you put what is it I'm getting if I'm not unlocking potential, transformation, or leadership development, but where
Yeah,
the rubber hits the road?
yeah.
What
Oh,
what is it I'm
absolutely.
getting? Yeah.
No, that's a very good example. So for in the place of leadership development, we have started to talk about leadership design.
Mm,
And the reason for that is that I come from a software development background as well, and a lot of time the coders used to spend was in actually designing the software, that how it should be done, the architecture, etc. So designing was nearly 60-70% of the entire project. Then once the design was ready, then you focus on development, like actual coding of how things should be
mm,
done. And now with AI, I think things have become much easier. So the moment we hear the term leadership development, the first question I had was, well, who is designing it then? If you look at the back of your iPhone and you wonder, well, it's made in China, like many other things in the world. So the factories were somewhere in China. They must have controlled the quality of the products, fair enough. Why does it still say design in California? How many products have you seen or you use in your daily life other than your iPhone, which also proudly prints where that item was designed? I haven't seen anything.
mm.
I haven't seen anything. In some of the museums, you see a certain piece of furniture was designed by an Italian artist, for example. I've seen this in museums mostly, and it makes sense. But when it comes to a day-to-day item, I don't know if Samsung phones have the same thing or not, that is designed in Korea but made in somewhere else or
No,
in Korea. I don't know. But why does Apple do it? I don't know. I even now I don't know, and I'm going to look up for it that what is the reason that they proudly want to say that it was designed in not even the US, but in California. It's a state
because
of
it's
the
cool.
US. Yeah, it's because it's cool. Maybe that's their motto.
Mm.
So there you go. So yeah, that's the thing that we want to focus on leadership design instead of leadership development.
And because the
In
design is important, is what you're
because the
saying, right?
design is important because
Mm, mm,
what we are doing with hello as well, that you are actually understanding the power of language and doing the optimization in the right moments so that to increase the your comprehension, understandability between different teams, etc. And then comes unlock potential. And the reason why we refrained from using this term was again it became too cliche, and just many people have been using it. We get it what it means, but it was a conscious decision to just use another word, even if it means well, we might have to use a few more words to really understand what exactly unlock potential means, then be it, if we have the liberty. And the third one was transformation. Again, we get it, what we're trying to say, but we realized from our own observation that the word transformation has been used by the leadership industry as if it has got a postcode. It's a destination, but it is not. You need to constantly evolve. Everybody's talking about transformation, digital transformation, personal transformation. We understand the intention, I get it, but again, there are better choices, and our research suggested that it's more about transitions than transformation. We are always in transit in some shape or form. So we would rather talk about transitions from one career to another career, one emotion to another emotion,
mm.
one state of mind to another state of mind, to improve ourselves constantly rather than being stuck with a final destination called transformation.
Okay. And so where the rubber hits the road.
Oh well, yeah, I think these are one of those, yeah, isn't it? The idioms, the sayings that. So I think literally, again, it just means. Well, I think it just means that, yeah, when it gets serious, when it comes to really looking at some concrete results, really getting to the specifics of that. No more
Mm,
vagueness. So that is what is meant.
mm. So I think a corporate, so I think that when we see this, what is it they're getting? I think when a corporate looks and you think everything's going right, but if you had to look at optimization or look at where's the bottleneck, and maybe if you started looking really closely, you'd see maybe we don't have so much a problem as what we just need to start saying hello, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed,
And so, yeah.
exactly.
Mm. So,
And it's you are very right on one thing here, among many must be that is that there is actually maybe no problem.
mm,
It is true that everything is going fine so far. There is indeed no problem. But the thing is, if you don't have a proactive awareness and understanding of the use of language, spoken, written, policy, on your website, on your posters, on your wall, town halls, you might end up in certain problems eventually, which will cause you to initiate, oh, let's do a cultural training now, let's do a presentation for assessment now. Everything is okay, but hello is your the basic assessment that you need to do, or you can do it from time to time because it's not a one-off thing. It's an ongoing thing to see. Um, if you don't do hello, you will definitely get into some issues because we are all human beings with multicultural, multilingual background, and it's bound to happen. But if you have done hello, you will be aware of the pitfalls, what to avoid.
mm. And I think again, like you said, and I think we touched on this last week when we spoke about um, we most corporates do leadership development because it's something that they have to do. But imagine if they just did hello,
Yeah.
and then you could actually solve a whole lot of things without deciding there's a problem. Things could emerge.
Yeah,
Um, mm.
yeah, yeah. What is that? Some might argue that is hello going to solve all my company's problem or not? Or if I have an issue with my team member, or if I have an issue with my career progression, well, there are elements of hello which, if you're using a language in your day-to-day communications with your manager, with your team member, of course, hello will help you because, the whole entire coaching industry, for example, is all based on what kind of powerful questions you can ask. Or even if you're not using coaching in a typical training situation or day to day interaction with your team, you are using languages. So, depending on what kind of insights you can get and what is optimized as a result of you doing hello, it will have an impact on your coaching questions. It will have an impact on the type of communication you can put forward to your manager, to your colleagues. So yes, this is how hello can touch upon a lot of things. But yes, we are constantly asking ourselves in collaboration with the companies that we work for is there are definitely areas where you don't need hello. For example, if you're doing a financial audit, you're coming up with balance sheets and all. Even there might be some elements of linguistic elements, but when it comes to numbers, other than knowing where to put your commas and your currency signs, there is nothing that hello might do. So we carefully also understand and communicate to our stakeholders that this is not our territory. This is not a linguistic territory. This is, that is, etc.
So if we had to take hello back to eclectic leadership, because I feel that's where you're going, is it's a group, right? And you talk about the council. So
Yes.
take us a little bit into that. What is just I know you spoke about it earlier, but let's just peg it here.
Yeah.
Mm.
The Council of Eclectic Leadership is a model where we have handpicked, we have carefully designed a group of eclectic experts in our team, which comprise of currently around 25 advisors across 19 countries with diverse backgrounds. Some are linguists, psychologists, coaches, trainers, educators, entrepreneurs and also previous executives who had long corporate history, corporate careers behind them as well. That's called the council. And this is an answer to the one on one coaching model or one to many coaching or training model or one company like Accenture specializing on consulting, and they do have their different branches specializing on industries. But in eclectic leadership, what happens is it's a very diverse group of specialists who predominantly work with either one organization or one individual. So this is how the council works. And for Hello, they're very much needed because to avoid the bias that one person or a group of members in our team, for example, who only speak in English, they might be suffering from a group bias because of the linguistic similarity. To counter that, the council offers non English speakers. Then the council offers not only linguists, but also psychologists, political scientists, etc. And I must mention to you as well how the design of that is not something that of course I felt it when I was working in my gaming company, etc. But there are some strong theoretical underpinning of hello as well, where theories of linguistics, neuroscience are all incorporated in a practical way. I can remember the theories of sociolinguistics theory from Landry and Borges of how a word is said and what it's the meaning. So the top-down meaning is different from bottom-up meaning. So there are some theories of sociolinguistics from folks like Landry and Borges. That's just one of the possibly 20 to 25 theories, including Noam Chomsky and Sapir-Whorf, etc. Clients don't need to know that. But if somebody questions us from a research perspective, that what exactly are the theoretical underpinning of that? Did you just come out of it in your dreams? Not really. So we have looked at the research done in linguistics, sociology, anthropology, and then we have converted it into a practical package that
Yeah.
companies can use immediately.
Great. So now once you've done hello, and here we said like that which identifies the gap. So who owns it going forward? Who owns the gap? And is that part
The
of what hello provides, the roadmap?
you're right that when we talk about hello, the last three observation, outcome, and optimization, think of them as a roadmap. So the observation element is we own it in collaboration with the organization so that we are given access to the non-confidential linguistic elements of that organization so that we can observe for a certain amount of time. Then comes the outcome, which we do the assessment, the analysis internally through the council, and then we share the outcome, the result of that with the organization. So that's the second element of the roadmap. The third element of the optimization, it lies only with the organization, with the company, that we then suggest areas of improvement, areas of optimization. And you might be thinking, what exactly are those areas that Hello can recommend? Um, Communication is a big one, of course, that what needs to be communicated depending on the composition of the organization's workforce, location, type of business, etc. Then comes gender issues, another big one, depending on the workforce. What is the implication of gender balance or gender perspectives in a certain organization, cultural perspectives, cultural take. So there are these various areas which we usually identify. Then, depending on the need, we then suggest some optimizations and what they mean as well to the customers. Then it's up to them that whether or not they go ahead and implement those or not. If they want, we can do similar things. So another round of hello, possibly say after a year or after 2 years, because thing needs to settle down as well.
So you could implement an entire work skills plan.
You can, you
Mm.
can, but bearing in mind that at a very design level.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be
So
randomly picking things to do. It would be really specific. And as you make observations and your findings are evolve or discovered, you design the next level
yeah,
of work that needs to happen. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I remember something slightly. So this is discussed under the topic of marketing or brand building, customer service, for example. I think there is a brand in the US called Chipotle or Chicolo. It's a fast food chain. I forgot exactly the name, where the owner somehow they are known for their exceptional customer service because when you walk into their restaurants in the US, staff comes in and staff are instructed to actively mention a certain sentence, which is, it's my pleasure, it's my pleasure, it's my pleasure. And you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal about it? That became the big deal for them, that their customers felt noticed, respected, um, very much cared for because their staff, in a very genuine way, kept saying, it's my pleasure. And they meant it. The fact that a guest walked into their restaurant and they said thank you, and the staff was genuinely saying, it's my pleasure. So that became, so again, you are using power of words in a repeat mode, in a very authentic way, at the right interaction point to make make a difference. That becomes
Mhm.
your differentiating factor. So that's how I'm not saying they did a hello, but in the end of the day, everybody's trying to. The bottom line for hello is in a corporate commercial setting, you're trying to capture market share. If you have to capture market share, one of the effective ways is to capture the mind share of your employees, of your suppliers, customers, potential staff, everybody. How do you capture mind share? You capture what goes through to your two ears, which is sound bites. which is understandable buzzwords, keywords. If you own a keyword for a repeated and you repeat them over a certain period of time, it's very likely that you will own the mind share. That the moment people hear that term, that becomes you. They associate that with you. And then you look at the market share, which eventually should happen
Mm.
because you own a certain word. So that's why words are extremely powerful. Words create worlds. You want to capture market share, you capture the mind share. How you capture mind share? You capture words. You capture
Mm.
keywords, that becomes yours.
Whether you love them or hate them, I think of whenever I travel, and not lately since COVID, but before I traveled quite a bit, and always go to a Starbucks because you know what you're getting, right? And that the fact that they write your name, now that you
Yes.
have the app, they print your name and they call your name. That's
Yes.
that's that's the thing, right? No matter
Yes,
where you are in
indeed.
the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you get
And
it, that what you're getting, you
yeah.
hear your own name, it feels personally made for you.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
listen out in every country how they mispronounce your name. It's almost
Yes.
becomes a little bit of a game, right? Yeah.
That's so funny. Yes.
Yes.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. And now with the app, I hate it because they get your name right. Before we used to, because I got a really weird name and so does my sister. So we always used to go and give them our name and they go, "How do I spell it?" And like, "No, you spell it." And we used to take pictures of how they spelt your name. So every country we capture how they spell your name from what they
Yeah.
hear, right? And it was a game. It was fun. But it drew us to Starbucks. Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
No, and I remember talking about travel. I was once in Chefchaouen in north of Morocco, and I remember there was a place called Kasbah and a restaurant, local. Just we just stopped there for to have some food, and I wanted to try out some basic Arabic with the waiter, and he spoke perfect English anyways. But then at some point, what happened was I just wrote his name in Arabic on the tissue paper because he just wanted to try test me that do I can I write, and I wrote his name in Arabic on the tissue paper. He was so impressed, and we were still talking in English. He did not let us pay for our meal,
Oh,
just like
nice.
that. And yeah,
Yeah.
you might think that, oh well, yeah, that's why you need to become multilingual. Well, which is true. Being multilingual, of course, opens doors. You get free meals.
Connects. Connection.
Yes, but you are right. That is beyond just having a free meal and learning a language to understand a country where they speak in Arabic as well. Of course, which are all true. But think of it deeply that I did something using language that triggered certain sets of emotion to the other person, which
Mm.
led him to take an action to waive off the fees for what I did. Is it a good thing, bad thing? I'm not getting there. But do you see the impact of a certain linguistic action that you take? When you compound it for 10,000 workforce of your company who speak different languages, imagine the kind of gold mine that you're sitting on and also landmine. It can be
Mm.
both, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Great. So I know we've touched on AI, but what I want to talk about next is what's next. So if we're looking for a company to pilot, talk to us. What are we looking for? We're looking for people in the networks, people who know people, somebody wants to try this out.
You're right. I mean, we can come up with case studies. We can share with you what we did with an Indian university in a certain super mall somewhere in India and what are the results, how did we do it? Everything is there. But you're right. We need to just present the power of hello. That why need to do we start with hello. You need to do a cross-cultural training. You need to understand the DEI checkpoints of your organization. Start with a hello. You need to do an employee experience survey of your organization, trying to understand the pain points of your organization. Start with a hello. So we are only looking for a presentation now to the head of HRs, to the HR, to the head of organizational developments, to the decision makers, to really represent the power of languages in a completely different light so that we stop taking it for granted, don't only reduce languages and the power of the linguistics professionals to translators, interpreters, multilingualism, culture, which is all true, but we are really not doing ourselves a service if we just stop there. The
Mm,
power of language then impacts our psychology, the power balance, an entire marketing, messaging, copywriting, advertising based on how we are using language. So that is just what we want to do is the organizations give us that opportunity to present it. Let's do a pilot. And then, it's we can always have some gate checkpoints in between to see if it is something that you really need or not. So we've come up with those
mm.
assessments upfront.
So when I was doing a little saying thank you, Shazad. So when I was doing a little bit of the reading around hello, you know what I thought of specifically? I know you look at corporates and you look at teams and all the rest of it, but what came to my mind was if you had a founder with a small startup who had a smallish team and they'd been going for 18, 24 months, but they were hitting a cap. They weren't getting past a certain, I don't know, customer number or a certain return on investment or a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Cap on their income.
Revenue and all, yeah.
Revenue, yeah.
Mm,
Revenue. So,
mm,
if you had to get a small team in with hello and find out, well, what is stopping this team from just a small little team from going, they're doing excellent work, they're hitting a certain revenue, but they're not going past that. I think hello would be perfect to go in and then to speak to the team, because I think sometimes even in a smaller corporation you can be so busy in your busyness that
mm.
you don't take time to step back and look at the bigger picture. And do you want to maybe chat? Do you see it? Do you?
I see it. When you say it, I had been thinking along those lines. It is possible, and it is also possible that maybe for a startup, the factors which can impact them could be as simple as investment. For example, I'm just saying that since they need more investment, or maybe their product positioning was not right, or they are not being seen on social media, for example. So there could be, these are some of the usual pain points that a startup might face. But now that you say that, what exactly goes in your investment deck? You're trying to write something, right? Your case, your proposition, the value proposition upfront. How do you even prepare that? Second could be your even your social media marketing, that how do you actually become visible? Now, is it all something that Shazad is a master of investment deck preparation, social media, copywriting? Not at all. That's why we have a council. Even we
Mm,
have a council in our team. We have specialists who are working on AI and ethics, for example. So they take care of everything to do with speaking with AI. So you are right that an organization which is at a startup phase are also perfect candidates for figuring out how they're using language to propel their growth, or whether or not any linguistic bottleneck or blind spots are holding them back from being visible to investors, to their potential clients, markets. You're actually right. So there is it always doesn't have to be big companies, big hospitals with a lot of multicultural setting. That is what I had been thinking all along. But now that you say so, there is nothing stopping a startup, because again we go back to the main question: do you use languages in your day-to-day use? And if the answer is oh yes we do, then you also become
mm.
a potential partner to do hello immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is when I sometimes speak to an individual in a team, because I work mostly with individuals, and they'll say, "Yeah, we just need to work harder," and I'm like, "Well, how is working? You haven't been working hard,
Mm.
how's working harder going to change it?" And I think sometimes people think, "Oh, we just need to keep going, or we just need to go harder." I was like, "No, you actually need to step back and see." What is this working hard producing? And so, how can I think about it in a different way? And I think that is also about hello, is stepping back and going, well, let's look at all of these things and go, well, maybe working harder and then I don't want to say working smarter because that's a cliche, but just
Mm.
sometimes working harder isn't going to make the difference. What is that? What is it? That's the investigation, right? What is the thing that's going to shift us?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we are constantly very aware every day, at every interaction. Is it really necessary? I mean, of course, we say that we need to do hello, but we have a very strong self-awareness that we really try to ask ourselves that if we think that, well, there is nothing linguistic here that needs a change, we say it. And we are constantly asking ourselves for it so that we don't end up becoming like a one size fit all, or we
Mm-hmm.
are offering a silver bullet or a panacea that solved the whole world's problem with languages. But it turns out that actually a lot of world's problems could have been solved if we would have taken care of our languages first. But
Mm.
there you go.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. That's been great. Thanks. I enjoyed that chat, Shazad. And wrapping up, what would you like to leave people with?
Well, we start with a hello. We are starting this week, a Monday, with a hello. So if you want to carry on a conversation in your organization, if you want to connect with other people, your customers, your suppliers, you start with the basic. Just do the basic greeting in English with hello. You start with hello for further conversations, further connections, and further growth. That will be my parting message. And I really want to thank you, Moni, for this wonderful uh, session of the circle in eclectic leadership. So it has really challenged me as well to come prepared and really share these discoveries with our viewers.
Yes, thanks. And we're going to be carrying on because I think next week we're talking to me and I'll be talking
Yes.
about my 5 advancement signals. It's the work I work in. And we have Victor, Michael, Alicia, and I think Karen and Tim.
Karin, there is Tim.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they are, a little bit about their background, what's coming up.
Yes. The only linguists we have in our lineup next who would be on the circle, these sessions for our live webinars would be Karin and Tim.
Uh-huh.
But Alicia is coming from a pure coaching training background, which is a
But with the
fantastic thing.
edge, very edgy.
Yes.
Mm.
And then we have Victor, who is a omnologist, who is a futurist thinker, completely nothing to do with linguistics and nothing to do with coaching, but it does not mean that he doesn't know the power of languages. It's the other way around. So we have this amazing eclectic mix of people who are coming to join the circle, which we are calling these podcasts, to share their journey. And our viewers will get an understanding that how the eclectic leadership's ecosystem actually is comprised of these different individuals working at various intersections. So the design is done so well. Yeah, leadership development is going to be a guaranteed consequence for that.
Yeah. And they are they become the council, right? They are the council.
Indeed, they are the council.
Mm. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much,
thanks,
Moni.
thanks, Shazad. See you
Thanks.
next week.
See you then. Have a good one. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye.